Come today. In fact, come now, because today could be your deadline. Hi there again. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit of the unsettling settlement scheme and lessons I learned from this. As you all know, unfortunately the UK has left the EU now officially, and all of a sudden EU citizens like me living in the UK, now we have to prove our right to be here, and yeah, so I'm one of these unfortunate people because I'm a German citizen. In that settlement application, you have to prove your identity. That is, you have to tell them your name, your date of birth, sorry, I'm just eating my hair, your date of birth, you have to scan your face, scan your passport, and various other things. I also provided them my national insurance number, and I thought that this should be sufficient proof of my existence here, but apparently I don't exist in the system. No records of me, even though I have paid my tax these last few years since I'm here, but there you go. Well, now I needed to provide proof that I have lived here before this deadline of the 31st of December 2020, which I have. I've been here for a few years now. So I scanned in documents as proof, and now I'm in this unsettled status of in between, of not knowing how the outcome will be. Will I be accepted or not? The thing is, no one would undergo such a procedure by choice. It's not very pleasant. And the app didn't really work that great. Anyways, so no one would do that by choice. Certainly I wouldn't. Yet many of us, we do that, and the question remains, will I be accepted? You're wondering what I'm talking about now. I'm not talking about this fleeting, temporary, United Kingdom, Great Britain. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the true and everlasting eternal kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, God's kingdom. He is the only true monarch. Always was and always will. He is the only true king. And you might be one of the people who wants to prove your right to dwell there in the kingdom of heaven and in God's kingdom. So you work hard. You're a decent person. You're definitely better than that guy who just murdered someone. You have made all the effort. You help the granny over the street. You don't abuse your spouse. Yes, you're not perfect, but I mean, who's perfect? No one is. But you do your good deeds, and they definitely outweigh the things that are not so great about you. And besides, you're really sorry about the things that you messed up. And really, you do a lot more good than bad. So you hope you will be accepted, but you can't know for sure. There's only one problem. See, you and I, we don't make the rules. Just as with this settlement scheme, the rules are given or set by the authority. They set the rules and the requirements to be fulfilled. The standard is set by them, by the higher authority, not by us. But the ruler, the ruler who sets the rules in terms of our eternity is, of course, God. And we have to fulfill them all, not just some of them, all of them, to pass the test. And you can't make up for a missing requirement, just as I can't make up for a missing requirement in my settlement scheme, if there was one. I hope not. You either fulfill them all or you don't get the right to dwell. Let's take a look at the heavenly settlement scheme for a moment and at the requirements there and see if we can fulfill them all. We'll first look at the moral law, which is the baseline, which you would probably know as the Ten Commandments, given in Exodus 20 verses 1 to 17. We're just going to look at a few of them. So, one of them says we are not to use God's name in vain. That is using God or Jesus as a curse word, saying OMG and these kind of things. That's blasphemy. So if you've done that ever in your life, you're a blasphemer. It also mentions to honor your parents. And now, have you ever brought shame to your family name? Have you ever disobeyed them? Have you ever been angry toward them? Well, you have dishonored your parents. It also says we are not to murder anyone. Now you'll say, ha, there, I get you. I haven't murdered anyone. I'm not that bad. But let's look at what Jesus has to say about that. Because in the Sermon on the Mount, in Matthew 5 to 7, he expounds a bit on this law and explains the deeper sense of it. And he says that just being angry at someone is the same level as murdering them. It's like murder at heart. And you can't tell me that you have never been angry at anyone. So you're a murderer at heart. Next comes the law not to commit adultery. And again, we look to the Sermon on the Mount. And we see that just looking at someone else than your spouse with lust, that is sexual desire, is adultery. So you're probably an adulterer, and it might well be you're a fornicator as well. Then we read that we should not steal, or we shall not steal. So even if you take a pen that's not yours, that's theft. And pens go missing very often. The next one is that you are not to bear false witness. Now, I'll ask you this question. Have you ever gossiped or told lies about someone? You bore false witness? That's a liar. Did jealousy ever creep up on you over something that you didn't have, but you really wanted, but someone else had it? Well, you just broke the last commandment of coveting. So, it doesn't look good so far. And then we have the first commandment, not to have any other gods beside God. Basically, if we do have other gods beside God, that's idolatry. So, do you live to please God all the time? Is He your everything? Probably not. Now, we've just looked at a few laws here, and sure enough, you and I have broken nearly, if not all of them. Yeah. And what we deserve by this, or what we gain by this, is not a right to dwell in heaven, but death and eternal hell. And that looks pretty dire, don't you think? You can know right now that you are accepted forever